Welcome fight fans to my channel. This is Johnny, and today we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning a possible unification bout between Gervonta Tank Davis and Vasily Lomachenko. Guys, we're still reveling in the energy of what happened this past weekend between Tank Davis and Frank Martin. If you watched the WBA lightweight world title fight, you would have been electrified by what happened in that 8th round. The fight went how a lot of people thought it was going to go. I personally had Frank Martin winning the first few rounds before the fight started. I did a prediction video and we talked about it, and sure enough, Frank came out on fire. His cardio was through the roof, his footwork was amazing, his feints were good, his jab was working, but like all others who try to solve the Tank Davis riddle, at some time or another, all of that will fall to the wayside and you're gonna get caught. I can't talk enough about Tank Davis's footwork, his pressure, his patience, his counterboxing ability, but his aggression against Frank Martin, especially in the mid to late rounds. We know he knocked him out in the 8th, but around the end of the 4th, 5th round, Tank started dialing that pressure up, putting Frank Martin on his back foot the entire time and making Frank uncomfortable. You could see it in Frank's eyes. He was uncomfortable. It was almost like he had a deer in the headlights stare. Today, in this video though, with all the movement at the 135-pound division, with the 4 champions, I want to talk about a potential unification bout. We need to start talking about unifying when we talk about Tank Davis. At 29 years old, he's 30-0 with 28 knockouts. That is what's left for his legacy, for the naysayers. His fans love and adore how he goes about his business, but his naysayers talk about how many world champions have you fought? How many times have you unified? So in this video, we're gonna break down the statistics between a potential fight between him and Lomachenko. We're gonna look at who they've been fighting, we're gonna look at their resumes, and we're gonna add up and come up with statistics, win-loss opponents' records, and talk about their strength of schedule. Now, a lot of haters will say, this fight should have taken place long ago. What I'm gonna tell you guys is, I'd rather it take place now or late than never. So let's get right into it. Let's take a closer look at Lomachenko. Guys, Vasily Lomachenko is 18-3 with 12 knockouts. He carries a 67% career knockout to win ratio. He's also ranked number 3 in the world in the lightweight division at 135 pounds. At 36 years old, the Ukrainian southpaw stands at 5'7" with a 65.5-inch reach. He is the IBF world champion. He last fought this May in Australia against George Kambosos. George was 21-2. Loma knocked him out in the 11th. Devin Haney, 29-0. Loma lost a unanimous decision in the 12th, which a lot of people say he won. Jermaine Ortiz, 16-0. UD in the 12th. Richard Comey, 30-3. UD in the 12th. Nakatani, 19-1. Knockout in the 9th. Over Lomachenko's last 5 fights, he's 4-1 with that only loss coming to Devin Haney. If you add up his career opponents' win-loss records, you're gonna come up with a statistic that reads 114 wins with only 6 losses. When we think about Lomachenko, we have to talk about how he bursted on the scene. He's part of that 2012 Ukrainian Olympic team. They call that the golden era of Ukraine boxing. Usyk was on that squad. Vostok was on that team. You have Baranchik on that squad, so another world champion. And when we hear Loma's name, we hear footwork, we hear movement, his instincts, intuition, how he goes about his business, professionalism. Now, a fight that we've wanted to see for years has been this Tank versus Loma fight. And for whatever reason, fill in the blanks, politics or not, it hasn't happened. I feel we are closer now more than ever to actually see Lomachenko take on Tank Davis. Now let's take a closer look at Gervonta Davis. Tank's 30-0 with 28 knockouts. He carries a 93% career knockout to win ratio. He's currently ranked number 1 in the world in the lightweight division. The American stands at 5'5.5" with a 67-inch reach, and his adoring fans call him Tank. At 29 years old, he's just now entering his physical prime, and he currently holds the WBA lightweight title. He just fought this past weekend against Frank Martin, who was 18-0. Tank knocked him out in the 8th. Ryan Garcia was 23-0. Tank knocked him out in the 7th. Hector Garcia, 16-0, knockout in the 9th. Rolly Romero, 14-0, knockout in the 6th. Pitbull Cruz, 22-1, UD in the 12th. Over Tank Davis's last 5, his opponents have a career win-loss record of 93-1. We know the Tank is undefeated, 5-0 in those last 5 with 4 knockouts. If you watched him fight this past weekend, and that was the first time you got to see him, you would have seen a patient yet marauding fighter. You would have seen a guy who instills fear in his opponent, but has patience and confidence in his power. This is a guy that controls the center, controls the footwork, and wants to pressure you. He doesn't mind giving away early rounds. Now, the naysayers might say this is a dangerous game of Russian roulette when you're fighting a high-level boxer. A lot of people said that Frank Martin's lack of experience was going to pay dividends for Tank, and they were actually right. Frank Martin, only 18-0, picked up the sport late, doesn't have a long career, 29 years old, and a lot of people were saying that wasn't the fight that Tank should have taken. I'm glad they fought. I wanted to see it, and we all know how that turned out. With Tank's style, like I said, he gives away early rounds, but he always comes through with that power. He'll knock you out mid to late rounds. His power is something that needs to be spoken about. His combinations are on point. His uppercut is scary. And the minute he sees you fading, he is going to drown you. That's what makes him one of the most exciting fighters on the planet. When I compare both guys, Loma and Tank, you got to talk about the age. Loma's 36, Tank is 29. The power advantage will be Tank's favor. I'm excited to see how the footwork game would go. The fight IQ on both guys is high level, and it basically would come down to who frustrates the one first, and can Tank touch Loma's chin, and can Loma avoid Tank long enough to drown him? All these answers I don't have. This is not a prediction video. This fight hasn't even been made. But for now, I'm gonna ask you guys to predict. If this fight were to go down, who would you pick to win it? Who would unify the belts? Would it be Lomachenko or Tank Davis? Leave all that in the comment section below.